I'm going to introduce Julie. Julie Hausen is an associate product designer at Tailwind, and we know you guys love these pin design segments. So I said, "Hey, Julie, how about I give you some pins?" So I know we have about 500 people who send in pins for redesign and tips. So Julie's gonna show us how she remade some pins. They're really cool. Okay,
Yeah.
go
Ready?
for it, Julie.
Okay, here we go.
Awesome. All
So,
right.
what did you do here? So, look how many. I had to make it smaller, but we'll zoom in here. Let me zoom in
All
so
right.
you can tell us
All
what's
right.
going on. So,
Sweet.
You know
what's
it's
going on
the
here?
original, right?
Yeah, so we have the original there on the far left, and we have this pin here. There's a fox, and the title says, "Shyness hides your presence." And so this was a pin that was submitted to us, and first of all, I kind of started out just asking myself some questions about the pin, which is really like, where is my eye drawn first? What's standing out? And where do I expect to go when I click on this pin? So for me, that was kind of, I was really drawn to that fox at first. And then reading the title, I wasn't 100% sure what I would find when I clicked on this pin. Um, I figured it could potentially be like a quote that I might save. Maybe it links to a blog post, something else. So that was one of the first things that I wanted to find out. And it turns out it links to a blog post that's all about shyness. And one of the really cool things was that it actually shared 4 quick tips on how to overcome shyness. And to me, that was something that really stood out as a big value add that might make
Mm,
people want to click on a pin. So that was kind of where I started from. And that gave me kind of the inspiration for a title for this pin, which is 4 Tips to Conquer Shyness. And that would immediately kind of indicate to me what I could expect to find, and that it would be a quick read where I'd leave with 4 actionable takeaways. The next thing I kind of thought about was who exactly would this benefit? Who would really enjoy reading this blog post? And so I really wanted to focus on kind of that positive spin that
mm,
you were talking about earlier, how people come to Pinterest to kind of have their safe, happy place. And so I chose a stock image that kind of focuses in on that, where if you're struggling with shyness, once you read this blog post, this might be what you're hoping to achieve. Maybe it's going and doing activities with friends, and here it's an image that might be more summer related. So as we're kind of progressing in the year, this might resonate with people going into
very cool.
summer.
So here's some other ones. You went kind of crazy. So
I had a fun time
what?
with this.
So tell us the difference between, like, especially those last two. What made you change? I mean, because you have a call to action for one that says learn how, and the other one says conquer shyness how. So what are your thought process behind that?
Great question. So I started with the one on the right where I was really taking cues heavily from the original pin about letting your presence shine, and then kind of including that CTA that's focusing in on really what they would learn, which is about conquering shyness. So that was kind of where I started. I really appreciated kind of the balance of the image
Right.
there, and wanted to create a different version that really focused in on those 4 quick tips. One of the drawbacks I thought of the one on the right is that if I'm looking at this, I'm not 100% what I'm going to find when I go there. It might actually be a course, or I
Mm,
might be expecting to find a course. Whereas the one on the left, I feel like is a little bit more clear what I'll be finding.
gotcha. Gotcha. Very, very cool. And so, I mean, you created. Look at all those, man. So, how long did it take you to do this?
You know, it really didn't take that long because if you look between each pin, a lot of the text is actually the same. It's about,
Hmm.
you have that conquer shyness, 4 tips, with just some subtle changes there. So really, it was just about changing the fonts and changing out the stock image for each. So each one you can kind of see is focused on maybe a different group of people that would enjoy this article. And that was kind of what I used to determine which stock image and fonts I used.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So,
there
if
are
you
two things I wanna bring out that are really awesome here. So the fox one is kind of it's I mean the fox is adorable. Who doesn't like cute foxes? But it's a
chickens,
little bit
chickens
like
don't like foxes. I'm
you're
just
right.
saying
You
that.
have an answer for everything. So the conquer shyness hides your presence. It's a little bit like you feel like you're shrinking in, and with a little fox, you're like in on yourself. But the others are more like I can do this, really
Hmm.
positive and inspiring. And another thing that you did was really embodied this idea of relevance. So, if you are a young woman who enjoys the beach, there's one for you. If you're more like thinking businessy, there's one for you. If
Right.
you're a guy, if you have, or if you were a kid, I mean, the one with the kids there, that font even is it's very rounded, it looks kind of childlike. Um, but it really, like, if I'm a parent and I see that and my kid is shy, that is going to
Right.
speak to me and very specifically, which is, I think, a great illustration of how you can take one piece of content and make it relevant to many different types of people. Really great job.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this whole thing for, if you just joined us for the first time, we've been talking about this fresh pin strategy, and that's why I wanted to ask how long it took you. It really didn't take a lot of time, but look how many different audiences that you could fit into that Elisa was pointing out. You know, even the teacherish kind of look with the kid photo. I mean, so
Mhm.
just with that, you have all these different audiences, and one of these pins could take off, and you know, you see a lot of traffic from it. So that's really awesome. Great. Oh, and I wanted to pull up a comment because Danny goes, "Great work, much improved." So thanks, Danny, for that.
Thanks.
Why didn't I? I mean, Julie did it all. I just took the credit. So let's go to the let's go to the next example here. So let me zoom in on this one. So tell us a little bit about these.
So the original pin image is there on the left, and you can see there's the bucket of chalk paint at the top, and there's table and chairs at the bottom, and then you have your title, which says Dreamy Chalk Painted Farmhouse Table. So in looking at this one, my eye was definitely drawn to chalk painted. It's that bright red, kind of a fun font, and my assumption at looking at this pin was that it was about how to chalk paint a table to get that result that you see at the bottom. So when I clicked into the blog post, it turned out it's actually an entire tutorial on how to build the table, which I thought
Mm,
was really cool. So that was an element that I wanted to kind of pull out a bit further into the remade pin images to highlight that this is about building a table and also chalk painting it, and really considering how we might be able to show that to pinners in the image. So I'll just kind of start with that one there in the middle. For the actual fonts, I decided to go with serif fonts for the dining table, or whatever words I was using to identify that, because that kind of usually stands for like something that's more strong
mm-hmm.
or traditional and would kind of be associated with that. And then for accent colors, I pulled it from the tulips there on the table. And that way you're kind of pulling everything together in a cohesive way, even though these pins are still really light and bright.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So,
I love the call out in the middle of with the, it says chalk paint and you have
yes.
that little call out with it, and you did the same thing, but as a different variation on the
Mhm.
other one that's on the far right. So it looks really great.
Yeah, and the
Thanks.
guy in the upper left is like showing building the table, which is really
Right.
cool.
Yeah. So here's
Right.
some
I
of the
thought
other
that
ones too.
those images were really helpful to kind of pull in to show people the process there right from the beginning, what they can expect to see. I also pulled in a bit of branding. The chicken comes from their website. It was an icon that I thought was really helpful to just kind of give it a little bit more representation of what the brand is. And on the one on the left, I also wanted to pull in some keywords that might stand out to different pinners of what they might be looking for. So here we have DIY, affordable, easy, on that pin on the right, using easy DIY again, just to kind of help pull in some of those things that might appeal to different people.
And I think that's genius too, because as we have talked about before, Pinterest can read your text on your pins, and that you did it.
Right.
And both Elisa and I are, so, you know, we have a little trouble with the scripty fonts, mainly because the machine learning can't read it. And these are clear enough, and you're using, you know, a font that really will be easy for the algorithm to read. So I think that is really, really
Yeah,
cool.
and humans can read it too.
Right, which is
Bonus.
even better. Yeah. So yeah, this is great,
They're
great
beautiful.
stuff here. Yeah. So
Yeah,
awesome, awesome
really
work
well
as
done.
always. So yeah, so Jennifer goes, she loves the inset photos, and this is a great question. I want to pull this up really quick.
Hmm.
Are these all considered fresh pins to Pinterest, even though they are using the same main image? It's a great question.
Jeff, what's a fresh pin on Pinterest?
Don't. It's got a new image. It's a new image. That's all it is.
It's a new image. What is an image on Pinterest?
Everything in the pin.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything in the pin. You get a gold star. You get a gold star today.
Good.
Yeah. So right. So if I'm seeing each of these images, like let's say it shows up in my feed like one a week, am I going to be like, oh, the same thing again? Probably not, because they look quite different from each other. And that's the point of it too. Like, are they going to look different if somebody sees more than one of them? Yeah, they do. You can, like, one of them is zoomed in a little bit, focusing on a different area, bringing in different elements, absolutely makes a fresh pin. So you do want to make significant changes, but this counts. Good job, Julie.
And Danny says, bonus, dining table and farmhouse table also open up different SEO terms to target in pin descriptions. Great point. Power tip there.
Yes, so easy and DIY. Yep. Yes, that's right.
So, yeah, awesome.
Danny's
awesome
our
job,
co-founder
Julie.
and
Thank
CEO,
you so much.
if you don't know him.
Yeah, he is the CEO.
Yeah.
So he'll get a T-shirt as well. So Julie, thank you so much. What are some tips for some people who, when they're, I thought one that I hope we didn't gloss over too much is that you pulled color from that flower on the farmhouse table by using probably an eyedropper tool. And I think that's something a lot of people may not think about. But do you have any other like power tips for people who are really starting, who need to create like multiple pins like you just did?
Yeah, I think something that is really helpful is to think about who you're wanting to see these pins and use that to kind of inspire the direction you're going to take. So with each of those, it could either be with your keywords or maybe the images themselves. I know that on some of the pins, I was really thinking about focusing on people who are really handy and might really resonate with the picture of the guy who is in the garage actually building the table. And other people may be more interested in kind of the chalk painting element. So I think focusing in on what people may enjoy or resonate with the most is really a helpful starting point.
And I think when you did put that inset picture of the man working on the table, you can, because we always have the debate, man stuff on Pinterest and women's stuff on Pinterest, and that crossed both of them. It would be a pin that I would pin and also somebody else would pin, so I think that's a great way, just like Danny was saying with the SEO stuff, hitting those two different audiences. So Julie, awesome as always. Thank you so much for doing this. We want to have you back for sure.
Thank you.
Julie.